In this presentation, we will discuss planning your summer food service program. In planning for your SFSP program, sponsors should consider the following. How many children will you be feeding on an average day? This is your ADP. Your ADP is your average daily participation. This number will be assigned at each site on your online CMP application for each meal service offered to children. It can be viewed as the maximum number of children the site anticipates feeding on a daily basis. The CMP website does not permit a sponsor to claim more than the approved ADP at the corresponding site on any given day. How long do you plan to operate your program? If you're only operating in the month of June, for instance, you'll have 20 operating days versus if you're operating from late May through early August, or about 50 operating days. How many staff members, both operational or site level, and administrative or sponsor level, will it take to run your program? How much will it cost to implement your program? Food costs, applicable staff salaries, and other operational and administrative costs. This requires careful planning of your budget. How much of the cost can be recovered with program reimbursement? Site-level reimbursements differ by site types, vended versus self-op, and reimbursement rates also differ by meal types offered. Lunch or supper are greater than breakfast, which is also greater than a snack or a supplement, as well as the timing of reimbursements. Reimbursements are requested after a claim period has passed. The sponsor must have sufficient funds on hand to cover operational and administrative costs of the program. These may be due before the sponsor receives payment from the first claim. Reimbursement is based upon the number of reimbursable meals or first meals served to eligible children that were recorded, which is not the same thing as the number of meals ordered or prepared. Sponsors should also consider participation when planning their SFSP. And the first step in program planning or budgeting is estimating your ADP. Sponsors will not be able to claim any meals that exceed the approved ADP unless a site application revision is submitted and approved through the CMP website. Please contact the LDOE DNS as soon as you notice that your approved ADP may or has been exceeded. Estimating each site's ADP helps sponsors determine the program budget line item costs, such as meals, labor, and other program costs. The ADP essentially drives your program budget. ADP numbers enable sponsors to calculate their potential reimbursement for the upcoming program. The CMP online application system calculates anticipated total reimbursement. In this example, the anticipated total program reimbursement would be equal to $81,842.25. Reporting of realistic ADPs is very important if the sponsor wishes to receive a true estimate of anticipated program reimbursements. Anticipated reimbursement is determined by multiplying the total anticipated sponsor level ADP per meal service type by the total number of operating days for each applicable meal type and the applicable set reimbursement rate. This slide shows screenshots from the CMP website. The first set of boxes is reimbursement estimated based off of the ADP for breakfast and lunch served throughout the sites. This results in an estimated reimbursement of $22,040.63. That amount can be used to build the budget below. Food purchases should, of course, make up the bulk of your budget. Your anticipated reimbursement is auto-populated by the CMP website based on your facility application data. Each year, SFSP sponsoring organizations must submit an online application for the SFSP, which includes one sponsor-level application and one facility-level online application per SFSP site. The planned program is not approved by the state agency until the online application reflects an approved status. Again, each sponsor will submit at least 2 applications, one sponsor level and at least one facility level site. Sponsors should also consider program length. Once a sponsor has established the number of children it anticipates feeding each day for each meal service, the next step is deciding how long the program will operate. This must be determined both at the sponsor level and at the site level, as the number may differ for the two. There's a calendar feature in each online facility level application which automatically calculates the number of operating or serving days for each SFSP site. Sponsors must enter their beginning and ending dates for each site and select the days of operation, either Monday through Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever the sponsor plans to do. At that point, the sponsor will build their calendar for each meal service they offer. The calendar builder is found on page 2 of each separate facility application. The site operating days are pre-populated once each facility application's calendar is built. This is a screenshot of the page 2 facility application. We have beginning time, end time, our average daily participation. The green dates are the dates that the site will be operating. Once each facility application has been completed and saved, the total length of the program, or total number of operating days, including all sites, will be computed or reflected in the sponsor level application. This is important to note as sites may have different days. Some may operate Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus Monday through Friday, and dates such as June 4th through June 29th or May 28th through July 27th of operation. The sponsor app will reflect the grand total of operating days for the program. In the example below, you can see on the sponsor level application that the program will be running from May 23rd to June 30th, or 29 total operating days. On this particular site level application, you'll note that it is only operating from June 5th to June 30th, or 20 operating days. The next thing to consider when planning for your program is program costs. Once ADP and the number of operating days have been established for each site, the next step is to look at what your projected costs will be in order to finalize your program budget. There's two categories of SFSP costs. We have operating costs and administrative costs. Operating costs are those expenses directly related to providing the meal service. Administrative costs are those expenses directly related to administering or managing the program. All sponsors must familiarize themselves with allowable program costs. If ever in doubt of the acceptability of a given expense, please contact the LDOE DNS for assistance. Here are some examples of allowable operating costs. Food costs. This area will be covered in more detail later in the training presentation. Site labor cost, rent and utilities for kitchens or sites. However, disclosure of a less than arm's length transaction is required. Non-food supplies such as cleaning supplies, trash bags, etc. Equipment rental, pest control, telephone, and waste disposal. Here are some examples of allowable administrative costs. Administrative salaries, travel for SFSP purposes, telephone, office supplies, administrative office utilities, prorated as needed, administrative office rental, again, a disclosure of a less than arm's length transaction is required, and audit costs if the organization is required to receive an audit of the federal program or programs. These are examples of unallowable costs. Costs for excess meals ordered or prepared but not served, meals served in violation of program requirements, rental costs for periods beyond the closeout date of your SFSP program, the cost to purchase food for use outside of the SFSP, the cost of meals served to administrative adult personnel or any other adults that are not in the operation of the food service, non-program adults, the cost of spoiled or damaged meals, meals over the approved ADP or cap, meals served to adults that are not included in the count of reimbursable meals, and any other costs incurred that the program officials determine to be in violation of the applicable laws or regulations. Please be reminded that any cost you plan to use must be included in your budget in order for it to be considered an allowable cost. Other unallowable costs include bad debts, repayment of overclaims and other federal debts, contributions and donations, fines or penalties resulting from violations of or failure to comply with federal, state, or local laws and regulations, entertainment and fundraising costs, direct capital expenditures, or option to purchase rental costs, etc. Please refer to the USDA SFSP administrative guidance for more information. When in doubt, always contact LDOE DNS staff. For vended sponsors, unallowable costs include the cost of meals delivered by a food service management company to a non-approved site, meals not delivered within the agreed-upon delivery time, meals served in excess of the approved ADP or cap, spoiled or unwholesome meals, meals that do not meet meal requirements or quality standards. Sponsors should also consider carryover funds when planning their SFSP. Some sponsors may have excess program funds available during or after their current year SFSP operations. The only limitation on the use of reimbursement that exceeds costs while the program is in operation is that the funds be spent on allowable SFSP costs. If there are funds left over at the end of the program, sponsors may transfer the funds to other CMPs, such as the School Breakfast Program, the National School Lunch Program, or the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or they may keep the funds for use in the SFSP the following year. Records of this transfer must be maintained, as this is subject to review during an audit and/or technical assistance visit. Here are the 2020 reimbursement rates for operating and administrative costs. This is the maximum rate per meal. You will see we have the meal types: breakfast, lunch or supper, and supplement, the operating costs associated with those meal types, and then the administrative costs associated with those meal types. For administrative costs, you will either be self-prep or rural or another site type. Please note that you will receive a combined reimbursement. Here are the combined rates of reimbursement for breakfast, lunch or supper, and supplement based on if you are a self-prep or rural site or another site type. Please be reminded that the reimbursement amount that is calculated on the online sponsor application is based on your projected average daily participation. Sponsors will not receive this amount of money if operating sites consistently serve fewer than the number of projected meals on which the budget was based. Sponsors will receive only the meal reimbursement rate for each eligible meal served that is supported by accurate records. Your records are immensely important. There's no separate reimbursement for staff or other expenses, and sponsors are responsible for any expenses they incur over and above the per meal rate of reimbursement.